Now for his take on crypto assets, please welcome to the stage Bitcoin Suisse co-CEO, chairman and founder, Niklas Nikolajsen.
Hello. Hope you are enjoying you hear me now? Great. I hope you are enjoying the conference. I'm here to talk about the future. I believe the name of my talk is The Future Insights by Niklas Nikolajsen. And while I don't have a crystal ball, or at least only one that's very snowy, I tend to always make bold predictions. 1 year ago, also at the Crypto Valley conference, I was on stage and I was of course asked to predict the Bitcoin price. I said towards the end of the year, we would probably be back trading around $10,000. I wasn't entirely correct on the timing, but here we are today, it's 12,500. Can you believe it? So maybe I do know something about the future. And why do I know something about the future? Well, I know a lot about the past. Why do I know a lot about the past? For those of you who do not know me, I founded the first company in Switzerland that dealt with crypto assets in general. That was Bitcoin Suisse. That was almost 7 years ago. And while I will make some predictions about the market in general at the end of my talk, I can certainly say a lot about the future of Bitcoin Suisse. So Bitcoin Suisse is a crypto financial service provider. We do many of the same things you would normally find in a normal financial institution. I'm not going to use the B word. But you go to us for trading, for brokerage, for prime brokerage, for storage of assets, for credit and lending, and all of these services in the financial industry. Today we are 93 people. And I'm also happy to say that we are actually undergoing licensing at the moment to become a securities dealer and a bank, a Swiss bank. So that's the first time I ever said that. I waited a long time. It's been a long journey, but we are looking towards becoming a Swiss bank. So that's in our future. Why are we doing that? Well, we are doing it because it's very expensive for a non-bank to hold deposits. We have $60 million sitting in a Swiss default banking guarantee to be able to do what we do. We have to have a 100% reserve ratio for all deposits you make at us. A normal bank between 3, 10, sometimes 20% depending on the asset. So we are really hampered in that regard. And then as the previous speaker told, well, in order to deal securities, and many crypto assets are being deemed securities, we also have to be a licensed securities dealer, which is in Switzerland called an Effektenhändler. So that's our future. We are moving into becoming everything we said that we were going to abolish. That's a kind of irony, but you have to dance to the tune of the piper, and if you don't, then you might get hurt. Now, what's going to happen in the space in general? Well, I predict at least one thing. Major banks are within the next 12 months going to be moving into the crypto scene. Not just the small private banks, but major big banks. Why do I say that? Well, last time we had a bit of a, let's be honest, a bit of a hype in the market was at the end of 2017. What did we see when the market approached $500 billion or $500 billion in market cap? Well, we saw all the big banks coming out saying, oh, we will take this seriously. Even Goldman Sachs said they would establish a crypto trading desk. Then we had the big correction, lasted almost 1.5 years. Actually, it lasted until just a few months ago. And then you heard only crickets from the big banks. But while they did retract their active stance on crypto assets, they kept working. And now it's a different matter. Today, Bitcoin is trading at way above $10,000. And I'd predict that within the next few months, you will hear major, normal, big brand banks saying, We are going into crypto assets. We will allow our clients to expose themselves against crypto assets. We will have a trade desk, all of the same thing. I'd even go as far as saying that within 1.5 years, a major big Swiss bank will do that. Now, I am, of course, only guessing. What about the crypto assets themselves? No, let's take regulation first. So also within the next 12 months, we're going to see, I think, new regulation coming out. We see it already, that there's talks about everybody who works in the space should, when they trade crypto assets with one another, exchange client data. Not something we are terribly happy about in the business, because it will mean, of course, much more overhead, much more administration. But if you want to be in the big league, then you also have to follow the regulation. And I think at the end of the day, we will find a way where there will no longer be finance and crypto finance, but only finance operating under the same regulatory space. And within the next 12 to 18 months, all of the rules will be set there. Also, and maybe most importantly, how do we treat tokenized securities? How do we bring equity to the blockchain? That's also going to fall in place. And then we are going to see a lot of companies spring up to deal exactly with this topic. Prime amongst them is, of course, the Swiss stock exchange. They're trying to work on listing asset tokens or crypto securities in the future. But certainly also a number of Swiss startups and startups across the world have this as their prime focus. So the last thing I would comment on is, of course, the Bitcoin price. So I got it pretty right last year. So I should say, first of all, this does not constitute financial advice. But I've seen things you people wouldn't believe. Attack ships on fire on the shores of Orion. Oh, that's a quote from Blade Runner. I've seen the past, and looking at the past, I would predict that the highest Bitcoin price is in the future and not in the past. Why can I say that? Well, it's always been the case, and I see absolutely nothing have changed. On the contrary, adoption has never been higher than today. The topic is taken seriously, also in the financial industry, also amongst big banks, also amongst capital funds. The institutional money that everybody is always talking about is still 99.9999% outside of the crypto asset space. So in other words, if you are dealing with the institutional clients, you are not really at work, because there are not really any. At least they are not driving the market, it's still the privates. That said, of course, it's a pretty unsustainable situation to see Bitcoin growing $1,000 a day. That's what we've seen the last few days. That would probably indicate that it's not sustainable growth. But I would not be going out on a limb to say at the present stage that I think that a new all-time high is not years into the future, but less than a year into the future. So, yeah, in less than a year, we're going to see $20,000. That sounded really bold when I noted down the speech like a month ago. I was like, that's like 3 times up. They're not going to believe that. Today, I mean, when I went on stage, it was 12,300. Now it's 12,600. So should you draw an equal line, 20,000 would be reached in 10 days. It's actually funny that the distance between $10,000 and $20,000 in 2017 was 19 days. There were only 19 days between 10 and 20K. That also could be repeated this time. I don't hope it, because if it is, then it's completely unsustainable, and then we are in another bubble that will deflate. But this time, I think we will go higher. But be careful. It's not sustainable growth, but we will probably never, ever trace back to where we started this growth. So it's happy days to be a Bitcoin holder. I tend to be one of them, so I'm like dancing a little bit. And happy to have spoken to you. My 15 minutes are all over. So speak to you outside, and thank you very much.